take a seat.
Yeah, let's sit down.
Make this casual.
Yeah, let's make it casual. Just stare at each other's eyes.
Yes.
Let's do this. Before I ask the questions, like it's quite interesting. I like that last little piece when you were chatting about like just put it to paper, right? I actually had the privilege of doing a vision writing course that was arranged through Facebook, and what was so interesting, that what they emphasized was just like, before you even do anything, write it out and put it out to your world, right? Like you said, you don't have to share it, just have it somewhere where you reflect on it. And one interesting piece of advice they gave us is like, write it like it's already been done. Don't say, I'm going to, by the end of the month, I'm going to have registered my business. You should write it in the format of, in 2020, I registered my business in June. And since then, I've now employed 3 people to help me start. So that's my little 2 cents that I'll add from what I experienced last week, which is amazing. Cool. Louis.
Louis. Looked into my eyes while you were saying
Right
that.
into your eyes, right?
You know what's coming.
Look into my eyes. Cool. The first question I actually want to ask you is the one from a crowd that actually came a bit earlier, and it was a question about work-life balance, right? I'm sure this question has come up before for you in your own life, right? What advice would you give to the people in the room around that?
Yeah, I think like context-wise, I have a little boy that's 2-year-old. And these are schizophrenic little gremlins that draws your attention and needs your attention all the time. I spoke about one of the habits is health, and family and relationship is one of those elements. What we've done and what we encourage our staff to do is to take long breaks. And we know it doesn't always financially make sense because it's really stressful and you're thinking about, oh, cheapers, I need to look at the cash flow and there's this money on the table that I need to convert. But the ROI in the long term and the sustainability that you get from that break is huge. Habits is important. So it does require a life of discipline. You can't run a business haphazardly. And that means you need to have habits in the way that you engage with your family as well. Because what that does is it creates familiarity and consistency for the family. They know what the expectations are. If they don't know that, what time you're coming home in most evenings, there's uncertainty that starts breeding, and that there's a domino effect that comes from that uncertainty. So, what we try and do is, communicate to our family that, if we have to work late, we work late, and we communicate clearly. It's not an unexpected surprise. But for the most part, be home for dinner, and just have a conversation, not about like the business specifically, but be interested in their lives. And we've seen the benefit in terms of the well-being of ourselves as entrepreneurs, but also of the staff as well, in order to do that.
That's really cool. Actually, funny, my wife and I, we actually use Slack, because I am on Slack at work. So I use Slack to actually communicate with my wife to say, hey, I'm going to be late because of. And it's actually been a game changer, because I'm horrible on WhatsApp, I'm horrible on SMS, I don't pick up my phone, but Slack has just actually literally helped save my marriage. So what he says, it's a very powerful business tool. It's got far-reaching benefits beyond just collaboration in the workplace. Cool. Another question we have here is, do you mind just giving us a bit of your insights on what you think the history of entrepreneurship has been, and kind of where it's going, the country, the world, wherever you feel most comfortable talking about? It'll just be interesting to hear your thoughts around that.
Yeah, no, I've got clear thoughts around that. In South Africa specifically, it's all hype and no action. So the data backs this up as well. The sentiment towards entrepreneurship is at an all-time high. Fast Company magazine, governments, everyone promotes entrepreneurship or talks about entrepreneurship in a big way. The money backs it up as well. There are big funds out there, supposedly, to help small businesses. A lady earlier on spoke about tax breaks. Those things are there in place. And if you look even at education budgets, the amount of money that's going towards entrepreneur education is a lot. Yet, as I shared in the beginning, the level of entrepreneur activity is at an all-time low in this country compared to other African countries. So there's a disconnect there in terms of the words and the things being said and the action on the ground. The reason for me is clear, is that we think about entrepreneur education, the beginning part of the funnel, in other words, as being the responsibility of schools and universities. And while in fact, globally, schools and universities are poor at educating entrepreneurs. Educating entrepreneurs is done by communities, it's done by family, it's done in a practical way, in small groups. It is super flexible, it is not formal, it is very pragmatic and very hands-on. Your formal institutions are not well placed to look after the cultivating of entrepreneurship, so to speak. Yet 99% of the money is going towards that. So there's a disconnect there. So part of our mission is to create almost like a groundswell of entrepreneur learning that's happening, that comes from entrepreneurs themselves, that comes from the communities themselves. And you can see it when you interact with people on a small group level, how the lessons and the learnings, they land, because it applies to people directly. It's not theoretical, it's not in a formal curriculum. It is real experiences that are being shared, and that lands. A quick anecdote is that a friend of mine, Neo, he's what you'd call a township youth. He started his own fashion label called Brave. It's got a bit of a hip-hop vibe to it. He runs this business by himself out of a shack in Alex. And he's now educating other Alex youth on how to start their own fashion labels. He gets about 12 people 3 times a night to come and sit with him, and he starts sharing with them how to market, how to design your logo, how to brand, all those kind of things based on his experiences. And you sit in it, you attend those sessions, and you just feel a energy that gives you, like, you won't get that in a classroom, you won't get that in a lecture hall in any area. And that's the kind of spirit that we want to encourage, and want to encourage all of you as well. And try and do that face to face, not online as well. Too much is done through screens and at a distance. People need to build relationships and share knowledge face to face. That's when things land properly. You can see I've thought about this.
No. I mean, if I was a betting man, I'm pretty sure I'd bet on that. An interesting piece around that is that there's also something like less lonely about doing it in a space with someone who's experienced it and understands your story, your potential journey, versus going to an institute where they have to give a generic picture of what they feel every single business needs to start. But every single business needs something different. Some people just need a vision. Some people just need that first piece of cloth, that first sewing machine, right? Some people need their family to be able to support them. And you can't go to university and say the best way to ask your parents for money, right? Which is quite interesting.
We're getting the signal. But
we're getting the signal.
I'll just say one thing. I gave you the challenge at the end of the session, but another challenge is around dinner tables. Just have conversations around your experience running a business. Don't talk about football, don't talk about politics, don't talk about crime. Just start making it a habit of talking about the business and like the nitty-gritty of it, cash flow, those kind of things. That cultivates a culture for generations to come as well. And that's one of the habits that I'd encourage everyone to make a point of.
Thank you very much, Louis. I'm going to let you off the stage as they give you a massive applause. Thank you.